Hello and welcome to Back to the Future with Evan and Gabby. Double features, double takes. This is the podcast where we talk about two movies, one new, one older, and what makes them a good pair, and how the history of films influences the present. I'm Evan.
And I'm Gabby.
And today we are discussing Fantastic Four First Steps and
The Incredibles.
two films about superpowered families, both with babies of vague immense power and villains who hail from the underground, and neither of which contain John Malkovich.
That's very true, but the Red Ghost apes still make an appearance.
Red Ghost Apes still made it. It's hard to imagine what the movie would have been like with more than just the Red Ghost Apes, huh?
I don't really know where they would fit him, so I'm disappointed that I don't get more John Malkovich in my life, but I kind of don't see where they would put it. I kind of get it.
I also think, is it John Malkovich, not Vich? I think it's John Malkovich, right? Being John Malkovich? No, being John Malkovich.
Yeah, it's being John Malkovich. Come on.
So the reason I'm second guessing myself is that we just spent an hour troubleshooting our audio equipment. This is what happens when we're not recording in the Sweet Boy Matt Studios, where we've happily
Matt, come back.
We've been recording for the last couple episodes, and this is us trying to be timely. Jump on the movie as soon as we watch it opening night. And what happens? We have to start recording at 11 p.m. at night when both Gabby and I have to be up very, very early in the morning tomorrow. So this whole pod is going to have some interesting energy or no energy at all. So it'll be really interesting for myself when I listen through this for the edit to see where we end up.
So much passion behind this pod. This pod is a real passion project.
Real
today.
passion. I was gonna say, and I was like gonna save it till later, but I think this actually is like a good point to put it in. I used to like cover Marvel movies as my job, right? I used to talk about it on the internet. I used to get paid to do that professionally. We were never recording at 10 p.m. at night, and now I'm doing it for no money.
At 11 p.m. Get it right for the people. For free.
For free. Just for the love of the game.
This is good. This is good to start with, though, because that gives us an idea of your Marvel expertise level, which I'm guessing is better than mine, which is almost none.
Yeah, I do think it's interesting because Fantastic Four are such legacy characters that they've had so much lore that even like when I was a kid, I read some of the their original comics that my dad owned. So I read those collections. But it's hard to, that was when they were just starting out. So now as the lore has developed and, as we'll get into, Franklin Richards and things like that, that's stuff I don't know as well because I haven't followed up with like their recent
Franklin, never heard of him.
He's in the trailer.
I know he is now, but no, I guess my dad was not a Marvel guy, so we just didn't have a big Marvel presence in our lives. And I did not catch up on the MCU. Actually, the first MCU movie that I saw was with our good friend and technical producer Matt Prince at Emerson. He took me to see Civil War back in the day.
Whoa.
And that was my first Marvel, and I went into it like asking him. I was like, do I need to have seen the other ones? Do I need to have seen Iron Man or Captain America at the very least? And he was like, it'll probably be fine. And and I got through it. I didn't totally understand everything, but I did get through it, and I kind of had a good time. So like that's the one with Spider-Man. It's the one with Black Panther. They both make pretty grand entrances. I remember having a good time at the movies. And I kind of kept up with it loosely from there. But I never saw all of I still have yet to see, and I don't know if I will, see all of the MCU movies, but in my defense, there are now 37 of them. So I've seen all the big ones. I've seen the majors, and I loosely know the MCU storyline. Fantastic Four, I mean, we talked about this a little bit at the end of the last pod, but I remember when the first iteration of Fantastic Four came out, and I thought it was good.
Yeah, I mean, we were kids when those
Yeah.
movies came out, and I think it was like really fun to see them. Obviously, Jessica Alba, huge at the time.
Huge
Uh,
at the time.
Jessica Alba on potentially a date with Marvel star Danny Ramirez.
Ooh, Evan's been looking at Dumois.
You know I have. You know I was in the Taco Bell drive-through scrolling through that carousel in Dumois being like, Danny Ramirez is living the life we dreamed of.
I think he's living the life he dreamed of for sure. Um, the life that we dreamed in 2004 when the Fantastic Four with Jessica Alba dropped. I
100%.
I remember thinking those were really fun. And again, I think I was like 9 when they came out, so I just
Hmm.
took it off the Blockbuster shelf and I was like, this looks cool. Because that's how we used to do things.
Yeah.
But now it seems like it's a little more complicated. I have not seen the second. Have you seen the second iteration of the Fantastic Four with Miles Teller
I
and Michael B.
have. Yeah, I
Jordan?
saw
You
it.
have?
I don't
Okay.
remember a ton about it though. But I have watched it.
Okay, I have not seen that one. And I don't, if we are not, spoiler, not pairing it with this movie, I don't think I will.
Well, if you're an avid listener of the podcast, you would know that last week we said we were going to pair this with Rise of the Silver Surfer.
That's
Um,
true. That was Evan's
and
original choice. And I want it on the record that that was the first, that was actually the first pairing that you pitched when we started talking about doing the pod.
yeah,
You were like,
yeah.
I have to do these. And I was on board. I was like, okay, I will watch that movie again. I will relive some nostalgia.
And
But what made you change your mind?
I was at my friend Sam's birthday party and
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to my friend Christy, and when I was telling her about the podcast and the pairings, she was like, "Oh, you should pair it with The Incredibles." And I was maybe a few beers in, and I said, "I'm gonna text Gabby right now and say we're switching up the pairing."
And I was
And
very responsive because I love The Incredibles. It
yeah.
has a special place in my heart, and I was very happy to rewatch that one. And I do think that it is a great choice for this movie. So shout out to Christy, and I guess not you. Didn't come up with that yourself, Evan.
Yeah, but
Um,
it's obviously it's a, known kind of not foil, but like a known like it's very much related and inspired by the Fantastic Four. There's so many similarities, even, of course, down to the underground villain, of course. And so yeah, we'll get into the how it what it was like revisiting the film, especially now in retrospect, comparing it to 2025's Fantastic Four First Steps. So before we get into the movie, this is we both watched it July 24th, opening night. Um,
yes.
I saw it in the XL again, the AMC XL.
Oh,
I think the XL is fine. I think it's just
okay. I
normal.
haven't been there yet.
Um,
I have not been to an XL. I saw this in IMAX as it was intended. Uh,
Shaking my head, shaking
I
my head.
went back to the scene of my Superman crime at the Glendale Americana AMC
What's the cup for
because
this one? Or the
oh my god,
popcorn bucket?
there were a lot of cups and a lot of buckets. I gotta
Hmm.
say, I did not purchase any because I already made that mistake once.
Yeah.
But there was somebody in front of me that bought the full Galactus head popcorn
Oh,
bucket, and
right.
I have to say that I was judging just a little bit because it was $79.98. I was
What?
like, yeah, exactly. See, you like let that fly for a second, but no, it was like an $80 popcorn bucket, Evan. And it's like, I was like, where are you going to put this? What are you going
Yeah.
to do with this? But anyway, there were a lot of popcorn bucket and cup options. The person sitting next to me had a light up invisible woman cup, which I thought was
Mm.
kind of cool, and probably more affordable. But people were hyped at the theater that I went to. I went, yeah.
You saw it probably one of the first public screenings, right? Like at 2 p.m. or something like that?
Yes, I went in the afternoon and I think it was one of the first public screenings and people were dressed up in the Fantastic Four blue. People were carrying, like merch around. Like people were very excited to see this movie. And I think that that has been the energy going into it for the past few weeks, at least, as far as I could tell. Like, a lot of people have been really hyped for this movie. And from what I could gather from just, reading context clues and reading the room around Marvel stuff for the past couple years, there's a lot riding on this one. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of anticipation and a lot of careful, cautious optimism, I would say.
Yeah, and I
Um,
think the Fantastic Four was something that always got like the kind of OG crowd to come out again for these movies. I remember when we were kind of like, when we were covering it at New Rockstars, and we would always see like a little bit of an older audience show up in the YouTube videos for that, and it was really interesting to kind of think about, only because like I think again they are such old characters that have been, they've had two on-screen adaptations, like live action adaptations, that it just felt like this was, now the MCU hype, one could say, has both never been higher and lower simultaneously. Like right when the rights came to them, that it was announced that they could do it again, people were so excited. But it's
I
coming at a
remember that.
time when it's like pretty low. Just general
Yeah.
fanfare around it. Like, because I went at a 7 p.m., 7-ish p.m. showing. And after the absolute onslaught of trailers and ads, it's like really bad now. Like it's actually like
It's pretty
really
bad.
bad.
You
Um,
texted me during my personal favorite part of the trailer show this time, which was the back to back Indeed and Google ad that we got. I gotta say, it's going too far when it's ads and not trailers. Like, I could sit through a solid half hour of trailers because I like to watch them, but the ads are going too far.
yeah, and then now this like interesting trend, which we'll talk about, of the trailer paired with the movie start after all the AMC pre-roll stuff. It's like it just feels like too much. This
But
I
I gotta say, I get why they're doing it
Yes,
now.
me too.
Because yeah, I mean, we should say for this release for Fantastic Four, the the film that is getting the Odyssey trailer treatment is Avatar Fire and Ash, coming out in December from James Cameron.
Hmm.
It's the third in the Avatar trilogy, or I guess quadrilogy. I don't know how many of those movies there are going to be, but it is the third one. So we've seen this world before, but also wait, no, you haven't,
Hmm.
because it's a new it's a new biome this time. But I gotta say, like, yeah, when the lights were completely out and everyone's phones were away, the Nicole Kidman ad had played, like everyone got all that stuff out of their system, and they played the Avatar trailer, that that hit. Like, it really
Yeah.
hit.
I mean, like when the
More so than the Odyssey trailer did, I would say.
100%, like when the green, like this preview is rated for all audiences popped up, everyone like let out the audible groan, and they're like, "Are you kidding me? Like more?" And then when it became clear it was Avatar,
Everyone shut up.
the person sitting next to me, it was someone who I wish I loved movies as much as she did, because she was talking to herself the whole trailers and the whole movie. She would say like, "Oh my God. Oh, look at him.
Oh.
Oh, he's trying too
Oh.
hard. Oh my God, look at that." And I was like so impressed with how into it she was, that I didn't get mad. It like kind of took me out of the movie. It did make it a little hard to settle into the movie eventually, but I was just like, this is someone who genuinely loves the experience of seeing these things. And
Mm-hmm.
When she saw that it was Avatar, she goes, "Oh my God, thank you." That was her reaction. And I was like,
That's
that's
that's beautiful.
incredible.
That's
And I
beautiful.
was like,
That's cinema.
I don't know if I've ever heard anyone thank the movie theater for screening Avatar trailer. You know?
I mean, I it's a good trailer. I
Good
don't like
trailer.
It's a good trailer, and I think that it does place, like, especially all of those movies look incredible on a big screen. I mean, they are designed to look that way on a big screen. James
Hmm.
Cameron, one of our foremost visual effects masters. So I do think that this trailer benefited a lot more, even more so than the Odyssey trailer, which did play with the regular previews at my showing.
Hmm.
I guess, but yeah, no longer getting the special treatment. It's been 2 weeks. You're done,
But
Nolan.
also, it's not a
Um,
Disney movie, right?
it's
That's
not a
part of
Disney
it.
movie. No.
Yeah.
Avatar is, yes, a Disney release. But I thought that trailer looked pretty incredible, and as always, I mean, I will see the movie. Not now, probably not just for podcasting reasons, but
Yeah.
I see those movies every time they come out with my dad,
Mm,
who is one of the only people I've met in real life who loves the Avatar movies, like genuinely loves them. Everyone else I know is like, okay, they look cool, I guess, but
yeah.
he's in the bag. Like he knows those Navi.
Sully stick
Um,
together, you know?
sure, and I will see it, but this trailer I think got me more excited than the Way of Water trailer did.
Yeah, I think it's pretty hype because like there's some moments in this trailer where like obviously the water effects from the last one were incredible, but there's just some like
Mm-hmm.
lighting moments in this trailer where some of it doesn't look totally finished, but some of it you're like, wow, how is that? Like, how does it look
How is it
so
not real?
good?
How is this
Yeah,
not real? Like I
exactly.
just I was looking at it and I like those like kind of alien looking like amphibian things that are flying in the air. It's impossible for me to do them justice in podcast form, but
Hmm.
they were like I was like those are not real, but they
Yeah,
look so real. How does he do this?
100%.
Um, but I thought that was really kind of the only trailer worth noting. Did you see any other trailers that took your breath away?
No, I kind of this is like a trend for this podcast now, but I was like rushing into the theater late as hell. So I missed
Mm,
most trailers. I did see the Predator, what is it? Predator Badlands. That's the movie with Elle Fanning.
yes.
Um, it's really funny because I think I genuinely do like Elle Fanning a lot. I
Great actress.
Yeah, well, I'm also wondering if that's true, but
Because of this trailer or because of her
Uh,
filmography?
I don't. I think more the latter, yeah. But this is very funny, and honestly, like I know she's in the Death Stranding video game, and I was like interested in playing that now, or the new Death Stranding 2. But yeah, that trailer was really cool. I haven't seen Prey, so I'm looking forward to watching both Prey and Predator Badlands now that I've seen the first Alien for this podcast because
There you
I some of
go.
this I want to see. I think they are setting up a crossover, another
They
one.
definitely are.
Yeah, so I'm very excited to see.
Okay. Good to know. That trailer looks like something I'm allergic to. But a little bit. I'm not a huge Predator fan, but
Okay.
we'll see. We'll see how open our release calendar is if we will cover that.
Um,
If you will get me to watch that movie. Um
yeah, oh man. Yeah, we'll see. I guess it also depends on the effect next week's movie has on me too. And
oh, very true.
just a tease before we reveal it at the end of the podcast. But what we can reveal is the movie we're covering this week, Fantastic Four:
That's
First Steps,
true.
released today, the day we're recording this, July 24th, 2025, directed by Matt Shackman in his feature film directorial debut. He's mostly a TV director. Written by Josh Friedman, Eric Pearson, Jeff Kaplan, and Ian Springer, with a story by credits to Pearson, Kaplan, Springer, and Cat Wood, produced by the MCU guy himself, Kevin Feige. It's starring Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards, Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm, Ebon Moss-Backrack as The Thing, and Joseph Quinn as Johnny Storm, Julia Gardner as the Silver Surfer, Natasha Lyonne, Paul Walter Hauser, and Rolf Ineson all got with and credits. Nice to see those three
Hmm.
actors getting those. Again,
Good for them.
this is the third time Marvel's First Family has had a big screen debut. We touched on it earlier, but there's been a lot of anticipation for this. It was very exciting because, when it was announced that they were going to do a Fantastic Four movie, this was like kind of post Endgame or just pre Endgame, so people were
Hmm.
excitement couldn't have been higher. now, the MCU is kind of trying to claw its way back into cultural dominance. I don't know if it'll ever reach the heights it did in Endgame, but we can touch on that a little bit more. But let's keep thoughts focused on this movie right now. Um, Gabby, what do you think of Fantastic Four First Steps?
You know, I thought it was good to, yes, like a lot of parts of it are good. Some parts of it were underwhelming for me, is what I will say. But I did think that the setup was great. I like that we got another uh
Just like
you
right
know,
into it, right?
right. Yeah, I didn't know what hand gesture you were doing, but um, yeah, right into it. No real origin story. No,
hmm
like, seeing them go to space and come back with powers. Like, we don't really get any of that. We're just right into their lives, how they are post this kind of intergalactic accident that they had, and we're entering their lives at a really pivotal time.
hmm
Literally, the first scene is Vanessa Kirby is Sue Storm finding out that she's pregnant after not having been able to have a child for years, it's noted. So they are, at a pivotal changing, another change in their life is about to happen. And everyone is at peak happiness at the beginning of this movie, which I think is very important at getting the vibe right.
Yeah, and I think a choice they do that's like pretty smart was not to have the Thing and Reed Richards like two at odds with each other. That seems like it's been kind of a part of their dynamic just because, the Thing is like kind of Ben Grimm is like, not super happy that his appearance has been physically altered in the way that it has, and a lot of his character I think has had to overcome that and like and how he's decided to live with that in his day-to-day life. So having them be really close friends and stay really close friends throughout the film, I thought was really nice. The which allows them to place the focus of the conflict elsewhere. I'll also say I generally agree with you with kind of your feelings of the movie. I'll say that this is probably the best looking Marvel film in maybe
Yes.
ever and or possibly in a long time. And besides
Yeah.
anything involving the baby, which is some really, really bad
We can
CGI.
get to the baby. We can get to the baby, but the production design, the costumes,
hmm
everything else looks impeccable in this movie. The
Yeah.
sets, everything is like the world that they have literally crafted for these characters, because I believe, and I'm again not super up on comics, but this movie opens with saying that we are in Earth 818.
Evan from the future here. You're going to hear me and Gabby go back and forth about this for a while, and then I'll bring it up again. We were all wrong. It was Earth 828. Thank you very much.
Is that a different Earth
Yeah,
than we're used to?
Earth 8838, I think it was. And yeah, yeah.
838. Sorry, see?
Yeah. And
Uh,
because the Earth that the Marvel Cinematic Universe says they're in, they say they're in Earth 616. Um the Marvel officially calls it Earth 1999999.
ooh,
Um,
that's a lot of Earths.
and what is the Earth from Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness? Hold on.
That's too many Earths.
Um,
Um,
but yeah, so this is like a different universe.
right. And it does, I mean, I do think that visually you can tell.
Yes.
We're in a different place than we were for even, Thunderbolts is the last MCU movie to come out, and that is a much different looking movie than this.
Yeah, totally. And even just the lighting I thought was really pretty. Just the way that like when the light is kind of like moving around Johnny Storm when he's like has the flames, but even some of the like nighttime scenes where Pedro Pascal and Vanessa Kirby are just kind of like doing their thing. It feels like really just I don't know, just feels just really well intentioned and feels just really really pretty in a way that like and everything felt pretty practical for the most part, like minus,
It did,
the
yeah.
big CGI fights, but even the CGI stuff didn't feel as like CGI-y as it has in the past, to be honest. I
You mean
thought
Galactus is not a practical effect?
well, there are some practical Galactus effects, which is cool.
Hmm.
They had I think they built miniatures for Ralph Ineson to like walk on and stuff like
Right.
that, and
They
he's
they
in
had
the
to, yeah.
costume. But yeah, it's so yeah, I really appreciated that about the movie for sure.
Yeah, I think that that will be universally appreciated by
Hmm.
anybody seeing the movie, even if you don't normally pick up on these kind of effects. I think that it's impossible to ignore in this movie. Um, and after that, my feelings on the story are a little bit murky. Mostly, I just felt like it was a bit anticlimactic. You
Yeah.
know,
Really quick.
uh,
Also, you were right. It was Earth 818.
I did
Yeah,
it.
you're right.
I remembered something.
838 was the other one. Oh, yes.
Mm.
Sorry. Okay, to 838 was the one in Multiverse Madness. Okay, to go back to your point, yes, I also agree. A little anticlimactic. It felt much like Superman. I felt like this movie moved at a really fast clip, but
Hmm.
unlike Superman, it was really hard to understand the perspective of certain characters, I think, and it felt like the general story was just not, I don't know, like the trailer. So from the trailer, from trailers, general audiences know that Galactus is coming to
Hmm.
Earth. To their Earth, and he will devour their planet. That is what is known. We'll get into some spoilers in a little bit, but that that whole the way the conflict resolves doesn't quite it never there's one scene that makes you try to feel like this is like the stakes of that moment of what it means that they are going to lose their planet potentially doesn't quite pay off. I don't think they spend quite enough time in that kind of media in like that realm, you know.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, is there anything else we can cover that is spoiler proof before we dive into spoiler territory?
How'd you feel about the general casting and performances?
Okay, yeah, I liked it. I think that there's been a lot of uh internet talk about the casting of this movie, especially around Pedro, and
Hmm.
I thought he was great.
Yeah.
I thought he was different, but good. Like I haven't seen this flavor of him really before. Like playing this kind of interior intellectual mind, and I appreciated a different side of him in this performance. I thought Vanessa Kirby did a pretty great American accent. I'm gonna give that to her.
Yeah.
And I think that she is given um not a lot to play with in terms of the script. I think that feminism police. I think that she is basically just given like, you are mom now, you are pregnant, you are
Yeah.
carrying life as her character trait, and I think she does the most she can possibly do with that. I mean, I think that she in a lot of ways is the heart of the film, and I give that completely to the performance and not to the script.
Hmm.
Um I really enjoyed the dynamic between Johnny and the Thing, Ben. I thought we could have used a little more of it in like comic relief moments.
Yeah.
Um, I think Joseph Quinn, relative newcomer, did a pretty great job holding this down. Also
I
another, I believe he's also not American. So
Yeah,
great
yeah.
American accent work all around, guys.
Oh,
That could be a little dicey.
I would disagree with that one for Joe, but
Oh,
yeah,
really? I
I
thought it was okay.
but I also think Joe's general appearance in the film, I feel like it also suffered from a bad like a rough script too. I think like he didn't have enough to. I think the way they ended up like getting into his character as like a comedy relief kind of character didn't quite work for me, and it felt
Oh,
like a
is he
little
not
like.
usually supposed to be that character?
No, I think he is, but I just think
Oh,
something about it
I'm
didn't
not as
quite
familiar.
land.
So
Yeah.
I'm not as familiar as you, so if it's not supposed to be that way, you got to
No,
tell me.
I mean he definitely is. I just think something about it didn't quite work. I'm still trying to like I definitely will see this movie a second time though. Just because
Mm.
I wanna, obviously not be sitting next to someone who's gonna talk the whole movie, but at the same time, I do wanna just like kind of like sink into it a little bit more and now that my expectations have been tempered, go in and just kind of like live with the movie. Kind of like the way the second time I watched Superman 2, I definitely enjoyed it a lot more than the
Mhm.
first time.
Yes, I will say one thing before we dive into spoilers about Ebony Moss-Backrack's performance, which I wanted more of his face in this movie. I know that that's not how this movie works, but we do get a brief glimpse of him, which I think is important. I don't know if this was just my screening, but were there moments for you where his voice did not link up with the animation
Yeah.
on the face? Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
100%. I think they probably
Okay.
changed some things in post, or just maybe just didn't quite look super synced up.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't just me being like super nitpicky and like I thought that that his voice work was really strong. I thought that like he has a very distinct gruff kind of voice and I think that that seems to match that character. And I genuinely was rooting for him to make a move on Natasha Lyonne.
Yeah, it was weird that
Weird side plot. I think it felt like really like hammered in there, like a little like odd story out.
yeah, it
But
was really
I was
odd.
rooting for him.
Yeah, I thought, I mean, and I think he did a great job of like embodying like a lot of like pathos into his voice, you know. I do think
Yes.
he brought a lot into that because that is just generally going to be like a hard character to play when you can't do a lot of even facial emoting with physically the character itself, that you really have to bring a lot to that. And I think where when he did shine it, it really worked. Yeah. So
I
yeah,
agree.
and also just to touch back really quick, I feel like Pedro Pascal's performance here, in a weird way, it almost has like links the closest to his performance in like Last of Us. This like very like
Yeah.
selfish, this self-interested sort of person in a sense. Like obviously you care about family, but you do it in a way that like works best for you. And I think that's like kind of like they're foils in that sense, where Reed will still try to take the high ground if possible, where Joel in Last of Us will just like do whatever he needs to do, you know?
Do what
Um,
you need to do.
yeah. But all right, let's jump into spoilers now.
And we're back, and we are fully going to spoil the Fantastic Four first steps. So if you don't want to be spoiled, go watch the movie and come back later.
Yeah, and that way we can discuss that post-credit scene.
Ooh, make sure you stay for at least the first one. Honestly, don't need to stay for the second one.
Yeah, the girl who was sitting next to me who kept talking to herself at the end, she goes, "That was it? Are you kidding me?" Huh?
Mm. I'm glad that
Oh,
she said it for us.
she had some incredible reactions. Anyways, yeah, I this movie, listen, I don't think this movie's about anything. I'll just come right out and say it. I
Okay.
just don't
It's
know.
not about family to you?
I guess it is. Barely. I don't know. Everything seems I
Barely.
think it's
Yeah.
like what you said. Everything is like very anticlimactic. Not for me, a lot of the big moments didn't feel earned. You know, we touched on Galactus coming to Earth. Um, the Fantastic Four try to negotiate with Galactus, of course, and he wants this child that Sue Storm is pregnant with, Franklin
Right.
Richards. And they kind of try to, they move heaven and earth. They try to move heaven and earth to save their child. I mean,
I mean, I understand that. I totally do. I think that it is like a massive sacrifice to ask them to make, and I mean, it is becomes a big linchpin of the movie because they return to Earth after having gotten this, you know, uh, ultimatum from Galactus,
mhm,
and the people of their Earth are kind of like, well, then just give him the baby? Question mark.
yeah.
And I thought that was a little rude, a little mean. I see their point, but also he's a baby. Like, what are you talking about? Like,
Yeah, and also
um,
this Fantastic Four has given so much of their life to the war that world already, their planet, right? Like, I
exactly.
mean,
They have to give up their child too.
Yeah, Sue goes out and she has this speech, which I think does like work.
It
I don't,
works.
I mean, and I agree. I mean, I think it's a good problem that the movie sets up actually, but I don't, I'm like, I don't know. I didn't walk out being like, this isn't incredible.
No, I didn't either. I mean, I do think that on paper, this should work. Like, it
Yeah.
should be this massive stakes raising problem. And I can't tell if the issue is just that we haven't spent enough time with these characters. So we aren't invested in how long it took for them to get to the point where they could have a child, or
Hmm.
or the sacrifices that they have made for this, this earth that they live on already.
Hmm.
All of that is kind of already fast forwarded through. And, maybe we did need it. Not that we needed, like I said, I'm glad that we don't get another origin story that we don't really need. But maybe we did need more time just with these characters. I mean, maybe how would you have felt? I mean, seeing them do kind of like a Spider-Man or a Black Panther in Civil War reveal for them in a previous movie. If they had teased them, if we had spent more time with them
Yeah.
beforehand, would that have helped at all? I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, now I'm just thinking as I
Maybe.
said that. I'm thinking as I said that though. Where would they have gone? Like, where would they have even
They
worked
would
them
have
in?
like
But
it would have taken too much away from whatever movie that they were introduced in. Like there's a world where you could have seen them being introduced in Multiverse of Madness as long as like they didn't get killed or whatever in that
there
movie.
is a
But
Reed Richards in that movie, and he does eat it.
yeah, he does eat it. I'm thinking, but also like, is it interesting? Like, are these is this are these versions of the characters too perfect? Like this is a world that was described before the movie came out as like this is a world where Fantastic Four are the only heroes and they are like the world's saviors and like they have like done so much to provide for this world that the world is like almost like a utopia, you know? Like they even convince a villain, Paul Walter Hauser plays quote unquote Mole Man, to like house a bunch of people underground, which I was like, this is the worst idea in the world. Why would you put people underground if you're trying to get a space god to step on Earth? I was like, this is like literally this like the craziest idea ever. It's so bad.
Okay, it didn't make any sense. It did not make sense. I will give you that. Um, I, I mean, there also is literally right before the Silver Surfer like swoops in out of the air. There is a moment where we see like Reed Richards has had like all of the crime in their city stopped at the
Oh
same
yes.
moment, where
Yeah.
like you just see all these sirens and he's like, oh no, I did that. And, like, he's like literally he's baby proofing the world.
Yeah.
And I mean, I thought that was funny. And then only because it immediately is the entrance for the Silver Surfer, who we didn't mention in our initial character breakdown,
Hmm.
played here by Julia Gardner.
Hmm. I thought the
What did we
Silver
think of her?
I thought the character didn't have enough, but and also like the way that she turns on Galactus is like so unearned. I thought like it's
I
like
agree.
not it's like so it's like wow, Johnny Storm really got to her with one singular with like it's like okay, real time. That was probably a 10-minute chase and she decided
Yeah.
in 10 minutes to about face on this guy who would have destroyed her whole planet otherwise because she's so racked with guilt in that one 10-minute interaction with Johnny Storm. She hasn't even seen him like take the baby yet. Like Galactus take the baby yet, you know? So I was like, I mean, I don't remember how they do it in the Jessica Alba movie, and I don't know how it happens in the comics either. But I was just like a little bummed that they make a big deal about trying to get by throwing her into a black hole that has no there's nothing happens with that. She just escapes. It's fine. And it's like, wow, what? I
Yeah.
guess it bought them a
That
month.
is true.
It buys them a month, but they don't address that month
But
because
it also takes them a month to get back to Earth. So
and
it's
that's
a
yeah,
net zero. It's a net
exactly.
zero, which I
Uh
mean, yeah,
yeah.
I don't know. I agree. I think that a lot of the that big moments that they want to hit just don't hit for some reason, and I can't tell if it's a character problem, like the just that we don't have as much attachment to these characters yet,
Hmm.
or if it's just like maybe the stakes are too high, like maybe the stakes to feel too crazy that like it's down to this one baby this one seemingly random baby. I mean, I guess he's not random. He's, has powers of some kind,
Hmm.
but it does seem like maybe they're a little too, maybe they're too high. Maybe it's impossible to pull off.
And well, it's
And
interesting that you mentioned that you haven't really been following any of the Marvel films, right? Like as someone who
mm-mm.
was like professionally kind of following them for a while and was a pretty avid fan prior to that, like even as someone who's like more of a casual fan like you or just has a passing interest in it, you still feel like the stakes are too big. And it is like one of those things where
For
it's like
one movie,
for
yeah,
one
for
movie.
one movie.
Well, it's interesting that like the Marvel movies, like Thunderbolts is a great example because I think it's like generally pretty self-contained. The stakes feel like yes, it could be world ending, but it does feel contained to New York. And I think for on the whole, Thunderbolts like really works. It was like definitely my favorite movie in a while. But like it's tough when we get a movie like this where it's like it's solo characters again, and the stakes are the world is ending again, and that's like almost every single Marvel movie leading up to Endgame was also another the world is ending stakes, you know? But back then they felt really comfortable establishing characters, and we really felt like we had like a solid perspective. I think for the most part on like a third or maybe even a quarter of those characters. And so when we get the Fantastic Four and we jump in, I guess what's the phrase like in media res, right? We just jump in where they're at, and they seem too like too perfect. And the problem is just like they're just not ready to have a baby, but they don't really explore that notion that much.
I
That it
don't even
just
know that it's not that they're not ready. I think it's more of a like I think they're not prepared, you know?
mm, yeah, yeah.
And that seems to be a big deal for the Reed Richards character specifically, is that he always needs to be prepared. He wants to
Hmm.
be prepared for like the space excursion, that the original space excursion that they went on that ended up giving them these powers. He
Hmm.
wanted to be prepared, baby proofing the whole city, the whole world for this baby.
Yeah.
And it's just impossible to be prepared for everything, I think, is something that the movie wants that character to learn.
And I think something that I really appreciated about the movie is that they made this version of Reed Richards a little bit more like the comics. Again, this person who is very just like, this is the fact of the matter is the best plan like or there's that moment where they decide they mull over, do we actually just sacrifice our kid, right? And he's like, the people have a point. Like ethically, it is the most like efficient plan. Like I don't want to do it, but like it is true that it is one life versus a thousand, like a planet's worth.
Yeah, yeah.
This is that, and so that I think is like the Reed Richards that people know from the comics is someone who is always trying to do good, but also knows like will also do stuff that might be bad because he thinks it's in the greater good, right? There's a comic run where Reed Richards decides that the smartest thing to do to save the most amount of people is to teleport the tower that they live in, the Baxter Building, to teleport it away for one whole year. So imagine like the Empire State Building and then like maybe like 10 blocks all around it, 10 city blocks, all gets teleported out of New York for one whole year. And that's like the best way to solve what the issue was. And
That's
so
insane.
it's crazy because all of New York hates him and hates the Fantastic Four. Ben Grimm hates Reed because Ben's children were in the building still when he Reed decided to make that decision. And that's the kind of like thought process that like Reed Richards from the comics like kind of goes through pretty often. I think when they had Mark Ruffalo like play Bruce Banner and in like Ultron, Age of Ultron, he kind of takes that role a little bit where he's like, well, I'm doing it for science and I'm doing it out of
Right.
interest because I think it's good, but then it like gets out of hand. And that I think is was interesting for to see Pedro Pascal, I think mostly pull it off. They don't explore the depth of that situation as much as they could, but I do think that he does those moments pretty well.
Yeah.
And
I
yeah.
I do. I think that he does mostly pull this off, and I mean, maybe it's because I'm not as much of a comic enthusiast, but I didn't really get the hate for why he that people were feeling he was miscast. I thought he
Yeah.
was perfectly fine.
No,
But
I think he's really good. I'll be interested in seeing how like larger fan chatter or fan chatter like kind of evolves around like post movie. But I on the whole I did think the four of them do really well in the versions of the characters that they establish. Even with my criticism that earlier in the podcast still withstanding, I still on the whole I'm happy with them and I'm excited to see how they interact with everybody else because it does almost seem a little like uh James Gunn Superman meets Matt Reeves Batman in a sense. Like these might be like the paragon good people that could kind of mix it up with people who are like the Thunderbolts. Imagine them
right,
interacting with the
yeah,
Thunderbolts, right?
they're gonna
Yeah.
have to. I mean, I saw
Yeah.
that end credit scene for Thunderbolts. I stayed. I watched.
Oh
Um,
yeah, the Jet.
but yeah, I think that ultimately, I think that the stakes in this movie are that may be the problem, that they're just too high for a movie that is introducing us to this family and to these characters. I think that seeing them in this situation in like a second or third installment would have felt a little more risky, and
Hmm.
just like, we would have felt the stakes a little bit more. But I understand that they also don't necessarily have the luxury of that time anymore.
Yeah.
They don't have the time to do three Captain America movies before we get to Infinity War and Endgame. So that, you really care that Cap grew out a beard. You care that he's going through it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been said before, and I've considered like doing my own kind of like long form video about this, but like whatever Avengers Doomsday is and Avengers Secret Wars, like it'll never be what Infinity War and
No,
Endgame was as like not only a cultural moment, but even like a creative touch point in that whole universe.
it's
Because the last
impossible.
it's one is impossible. Like it is, I say it all. I used to say it all the time, on New Rockstars, and I'll say it now too. But it's like truly such like no pun intended or pun intended, but it is a marvel at like what they did. Like it honestly is so crazy that they managed to pull it off. And I think a part of that had to do with the fact that they're flying by the seat of their pants a little bit, and that now that they've almost too they put too much time planning into things, and then too many curveballs were thrown at them between Chadwick Boseman passing away and
Mm,
Jonathan Majors. And also just fan reception around certain castings and certain characters. Like there's just like
true.
and also overworking like the CGI houses by
Oh my God.
like quadrupling their output with Disney Plus. It really just ended up like biting them in the butt. And like James Gunn on for DC has been saying like I'm not greenlighting anything until there's a script. And like case in point, like there's been so many in the past 2 weeks, there's been so many stories that like, oh, Avengers Doomsday just got another screenwriter.
Another
Avengers
writer, yeah.
Avengers Doomsday is filming right now.
It's in production, yeah.
It's in active production. And what does that mean? So obviously trades can be delayed in announcing things, of course, right? But still,
Yeah, they often are.
it's not a great sign to have that pop up when a movie production is very like at the forefront of everyone's mind, that it's like, oh, but we all
Yeah.
know that it's shooting right now. We see the pictures of Simu Liu hanging out with people at Wimbledon. We see, well, we see Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Hemsworth like palling around in London. Like it's happening.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
I completely agree. I think it's insane that they were able to pull off a run of what, 20 something movies leading up to Endgame and have it link, almost flawlessly.
Hmm.
And I mean, I think that a big part of why I did not initially get into the MCU is because I just not to pat myself on the back, but I saw this part coming. I
Yeah.
was like, it's just not sustainable. And it's not necessarily their fault, but they can't possibly recreate this hot streak that they had narratively. And they can't keep people engaged with that much content long term. It's
Yeah.
just not possible. And not with that wide of an audience. I'm sure that you can for really dedicated comic book audiences. They will always exist.
Yeah.
But
But
pulling
it'll
something like
never
Endgame
be
off is not going to happen again.
That was
And
like
I
a
think that yeah, they we just need to stop pretending like it will happen
yeah.
again.
I mean, it was like a
Um,
cultural moment. Like people showed up. Like I was remember watching Endgame
I
for
was there.
yeah, I watched it two or three times in one weekend, and like my second or third viewing, there was a girl explaining to her friend who every single character was like behind me, and I like had to turn around and be like, listen, if you guys are gonna just talk about who each person is, like just go watch the movies before you watch this, or like read a
Right.
Wikipedia page before you watch this.
Get a YouTube recap. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I remember I saw Endgame in theaters opening weekend at the ArcLight Dome. Rest in peace.
Hmm.
And yeah, I had not been an avid fan or anything, but it was still an incredible movie going experience. People
Yeah.
were losing their shit in a good way. Just, the the finality of it and just the feeling of things really paying off, I think was so satisfying for not just moviegoers, but for those people who have been watching and reading the comics for years and years and years. And I
Yeah.
don't think we can build to that again, but we can, talk about, because we're in spoiler mode now, we can talk about RDJ, who is not not in this movie, I
You
will say.
think do you think it was him under the hood in the post-credit
Absolutely
scene?
not. No, nope, nope,
Who
nope.
do you think it was? Who do you think they got?
Any body double. Like you don't see his face. So it could have
Uh,
literally been anyone. It was probably, honestly, that toddler playing Franklin Richards was probably like his dad, to try and get, like, I'm serious, to get the kid to do what to like look
yeah.
at him like that and touch him. I bet you it was like his dad. Like,
I'm gonna put my money down on it right now. It was Simu Liu. He just did it for fun.
he's just there for fun.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe.
Evan from the future one more time. It was confirmed by Vanessa Kirby in an interview with Variety that it was actually Robert Downey Jr., but wouldn't it have been so much fun if it was just Simu Liu? All right, back to the show. Because the Russo
Um,
brothers, I think Kevin Feige confirmed that, or Matt Shackman confirmed that the Russo brothers did direct that post-credit scene.
right. That was
So,
confirmed.
yeah.
I mean, could have been. It could have been somebody on that set. But I mean, that is kind of what this movie feels like it is fast forwarding us to, like really pushing us towards, is Doctor Doom, because that is the next MCU proper movie to come out.
Hmm.
And it's not coming until allegedly next December. We'll see.
Oh, yeah, it
But
got pushed back. That's right.
I still, I'm not sure if it's gonna keep its release date. Not because of not because I know anything about this production, but because it's allegedly going to be released on the same day as Dune Part 3, and I just don't like the war for those IMAX screens would be crazy. It's not gonna happen.
I think they're
But
okay to lose IMAX because I think they might just go Dolby in 3D.
I don't know. I don't know if they're gonna want to totally lose IMAX, and Denis is not gonna lose that fight.
I mean, I think there's some movies that do like trade-offs on IMAX screens too, but yeah, I mean Dune will want every IMAX showing it can possibly get.
Hmm.
Um
But
yeah, I forgot that that's
but
happening so
we
late.
yes, but we are fast forwarding in this movie straight to Doomsday, and I think that I feel narratively the panic button being pressed
Yeah.
at the end of this movie, and I think that audiences will feel it too. And I just in what we're talking about, trying to reach that end game moment again, I just I think that this is them really trying to rush towards another huge cultural momentum moment.
Or just rush to a time when they don't have to worry about multiverses anymore, right? Because now that that is like
Very true.
opened, everyone's just thinking about it, right? And I think they want to get to a point where creatively they can be like, you know what, we're just doing separate things again. And I honestly think they have an opportunity to, this is a crazy uh comparison, so but stick with me here. I think they have an opportunity to do what Joker 2 with Doomsday and Secret Wars, where I think they have an opportunity to kind of like make fun, not make fun, but like look at the audience and be like, listen, you see all these people in this movie right now, it's actually too much. and it was bad. It was bad for all of us to it was bad for everybody to think that we needed to watch so many TV shows and so many movies to understand one movie. So, you know what? We're gonna separate them all again. They're all gonna go to their own
Mm.
Earth, their own timeline, and it's just gonna be fine.
If they do that, they are going to have to find a way to do it that doesn't make it sound like the audience are like suckers or like for like watching all of it. They're going to have to
No,
do it in
I think
like a
there's
like Joker 2 does it in a way where it's like, haha, you losers. Like you really liked that movie.
no, I think there's a way to do it because I think that they'll want to bring everyone together, but then the characters can just acknowledge like, oh my God, like, but if all of us are in a room, we're just too powerful, you know? Like,
I can't
so,
wait to hear Chris Hemsworth say that. But
yeah.
I want to touch on Galactus
Hmm.
just a bit. In a world where we are now used to having these comic book villain characters kind of make a point, like, you know, like a lot of that's been a trend. I mean, I think from The Dark Knight on, there have been a lot of movie villains in these, you know, big scale, big budget films that they do make a solid point about something, you know, whether it's Killmonger
Hmm.
or Joker, they all have a reason why they're doing something. Even Thanos,
Hmm.
I'm on board. Thanos does have a point. And
Dolphins at the canal, you know?
nature is healing. But those points that they make do often make them more compelling to us.
Yeah.
And I think that for once, I was really, really just kind of relieved that Galactus was just like his motive is just I'm hungry. Like I'm starving and I need to eat as many planets as possible
Uh-huh.
to, you know, to maintain the hunger, maintain the thirst.
Yeah.
And you know, I get it kind of, you know. I related to that a lot more than Thanos, but it was so simple.
Yeah, that's true. You're
It
just
didn't
like,
ask me to do a lot of mental work to like understand Galactus's point of view, even when he is trying to, you know, reason with why he needs Franklin Richards. I kind of get it. He's tired. He's been this hungry for thousands of years, Evan. Can you imagine? But
yeah,
yeah, he's
to
just like
always
a
be so
big
hungry. Yeah.
he's just a big hungry guy and that was his whole motive and I felt that.
Yeah, you left a note in our outline here saying you felt your soul leave your body when Pedro Pascal said we have to get Galactus to Times Square.
I did and I that was going to be a big note for me when we touched on the inevitable act 3 kind of garble that these movies all seem to have. Even Superman has it, but I bolded that. I wanted you to see it because it's true. When they decide that like they're gonna lure Galactus using the baby
Hmm.
to Times Square to try and like poof him away into a black hole or something, I was like, oh no. It just that piece of writing felt so dark to me in so many ways.
Yeah, I guess just to put a pin on the Galactus thing, I think yeah, it is nice that it is simple. At the same time, it is again like the simplicity is also just that the world is ending. So, and I think you're supposed to feel a little bit more of that kind of like morality thing with Shala Ball, the Silver Surfer, and you don't because she doesn't get enough screen time, and the how you get there is or how the movie gets there is just like a little convoluted. So that's the kind of like
A lot
yeah.
convoluted.
But yeah, I thought it was cool. I thought the visualization of Galactus was very cool, like seeing him in his like kind of like big machine. There's a really great comic panel in the Secret Wars comic where the machines are look crazy. Or is it Secret? No, it's in Galactus Introduction. His machines look crazy. But anyways, Yeah,
Nerd.
just some really cool stuff overall. Love to see him kind of stomp around there. Did it make any sense at all? No.
Do you think that people will feel like he was wasted? Like the
No.
Galactus's potential was wasted as a big villain, or is this kind of how he is in the comics too? He's just like a hungry boy.
Oh, that I don't really know. I mean, I know he is like a hungry boy, a hungry man, frozen TV dinner. But I don't think I think because they push him and they just teleport him away, they're like he can always come back, as opposed to like all
That's
the other
true.
ones like dying immediately, you know.
Yeah, I guess yeah, the door is open. The
Hmm.
black hole is open for Galactus. And I, for one, would welcome him back with open arms.
Yeah, I mean it's possible he'll show up in Secret Wars. He shows up in the Secret Wars comic, the first one. So
Oh, does he? Okay,
yeah.
bring him back. And also Franklin Richards still alive.
Hmm.
They saved him for now. I guess that's another kind of like under, underlying problem with the stakes of the movie being centered on Franklin is that okay, they save Franklin, right,
Hmm.
from Galactus. But then we see in the post-credit scene that there's always going to be a threat for Franklin, kind of. There's like,
Yeah.
whoever is sitting there in the Doctor Doom getup is clearly there for Franklin.
Yeah.
So, and we still don't really know what his powers are.
Yeah, I believe if I'm remembering correctly, it is like a kind of like reality warping type thing. Like he's very, very strong
Mm.
cosmically, which is why Galactus is so interested in him. And now remembering this, I'm like, oh, I wonder if they're gonna change this like key detail about how we get to Secret Wars. Because it is possible that like Doom kind of like steals him away and uses him as kind of like a power battery to like
Mm.
remake a world or something, but it's also like
Ooh.
we haven't seen Doctor Doom at all yet. We don't know what his full intentions will
No.
be in the movie universe. So,
Battery
um,
baby.
Battery Baby, yeah, yeah, that's a fun shirt.
Somebody will do that. Yeah.
So before we get to The Incredibles, any final thoughts on Fantastic Four?
Hmm. I no. Wait. No. I could think of something.
I mean, do you
Uh
like it? Do you feel like you like it less now after our conversation, or do you think there's like more to consider? Like, would you see it again, kind of within the next 2 weeks? You know?
would I see it again in theaters? No.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
will I be one, of those losers who's just like I'll watch it again when it hits Disney Plus? Maybe. I mean, I think that probably before another Marvel movie that I need to do my homework and brush up and like remember what
Hmm.
happened to the Silver Surfer or something, I probably will, but I'm interested to see where we go
Where
in Doomsday.
where does she go? Does she teleport with him?
I'm guessing she goes with him because she knocks his ass back.
Oh, cause yeah, and cause Johnny's like he's doing it with the intention of pushing him away, and he's gonna sacrifice
Uh-huh. And
himself. Yeah.
yeah, they're all willing to sacrifice themselves. We didn't even talk about how Vanessa Kirby is like clinically dead for like 3 minutes and everyone is crying. And then they put the baby on her and she's like
Yeah.
back to life.
Battery Baby.
Battery baby. He can recharge you back to life.
You give him a cell phone, it's at 100 in a second.
That's his real power. It's too strong. Don't let Tim Cook get this baby.
Oh God. Yeah, yeah. Even if Tim Cook did get the baby, all of our iPhone batteries would still die after 2 years because he's like, you just got to bring it to the baby, and the baby, you pay him 2 lollipops in order to recharge.
But lollipops are now $400
Dollars,
each.
yeah. They're Apple Pops.
Ugh.
Well, speaking of superpowered babies, of course, we have to talk about The Incredibles. This is maybe the best super family that has ever graced the big screen. Lots to talk
Mm-hmm.
about in comparison of that film to Fantastic Four First Steps, especially when it comes to stakes and the way the
Mm-hmm.
family is portrayed. So stay tuned for that. We'll be right back.
We have to
Okay.
change our backgrounds.
Yeah. While we change our backgrounds, um,
Franklin Richards.
this is where we would put a sponsor section if we had it. It is currently 12:17 in the morning. We're finishing up
It
this.
is? Fuck. Okay.
Uh,
I have not been looking at the time, but let's not pretend that Evan is not a huge night owl. Let's not pretend.
I'm trying not to be a night owl anymore. I'm actually trying to be a morning person. I've been waking up at 6 quite often. Don't think I'll be doing that tomorrow, aka
6.
later today. Which background are you going to use, Gabby?
I don't know. I'm struggling with
I
how to change it.
I think I'm going to use I'll use the lava one, or do you want to use the island one? Did you want to use the lava one?
Um I was going to use the lava one to
All
keep
right.
my
Oh yeah,
fire
yeah. Then
theme going.
I'll do that island one to keep the theme of being in the sky. Because if you haven't watched us on YouTube, when we can't record in the Sweet Boy Matt Studios, we record virtually over our favorite program, which will not be named.
We
So
will not be trying to get a sponsorship from them.
um, because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be up this late. So thank you for watching. Follow
Wait,
us
I
on
have to
YouTube.
find. Hold on. Don't do any of this yet. I have to find
I was
where.
gonna leave all of this in.
Oh, okay, great. I just need to find where the fuck I put the Incredibles backdrops on my computer.
Follow us on YouTube, follow us on Instagram, follow us on TikTok. Gabby's doing some great work cutting clips. Couldn't do this without Gabby. True, obviously, co-host of the podcast and also editor extraordinaire.
Thank you,
Better.
thank you. Better at social media than Evan.
Yeah,
It's
that's a
true.
testament. That's a fact.
I What is actually a fact is that I did learn TikTok for this pod. That's a real fact.
I also found out that I'm on TikTok when Gabby said, we're kind of blowing up on TikTok.
I mean, we had. Did we not?
Shout out to the person who said, "Wow, great podcast clip. I'm gonna check out the podcast now." That was a nice comment.
It was, and I think we did that person proud. I'd like to
Hopefully.
think.
Well, tune in for the incredible section when Gabby has found a new background. Thanks so much, everybody. We'll see you soon.
I have found it. I just can't upload it yet.
We're back. I will say, Gabby, while we were getting set up, I was having a lot of fun entertaining myself by going, "What?" It looks
It
pretty
is worth
good. It looks pretty
it.
good, you know?
Yeah, honestly, it is worth watching us on a video just to see what Evan's doing right now. Some really cutting edge shit.
Some really 2000 era core stuff, which is a great segue to talk about our movie The Incredibles, which
Mm-hmm.
came out in 2004.
That's correct. The Incredibles released October 24th, 2004, directed by Brad Bird, also written by Brad Bird, produced by John Walker, starring a stellar voice cast of Craig T. Nelson, Holly Hunter, Sarah Vowell, Spencer Fox, Jason Lee, Samuel L. Jackson, Elizabeth Pena, and Brad Bird.
So we've got to do the box office battle here. The Incredibles gross $631.6 million at the box office back in 2004. Right now, box office tracking, which we know is so reliable. It's so
Yep.
reliable.
Mhm. It's
Fantastic
a
Four.
science.
Fantastic Four First Steps is on track to open with 190 to 210 million this weekend. What do you think? Do you think this will gross more than The Incredibles at the box office?
I think that it will get beyond The Incredibles, but Not by much.
Mm.
That's my prediction. I think we're not going to see. I'd be surprised if we saw more than 700 for Fantastic Four.
Yeah, I was gonna say 800, but I think 700 is a pretty apt guess right there.
Well, because I feel like Superman is like not struggling right now, just overseas a little bit, but I feel like Superman's probably going to tap out around 650, like maybe 650, 700. And I
Yeah.
can't see this movie doing that much bigger because
Yeah.
Superman just has a little more hype around it right now, a little more like, good word of mouth is what I'm
Hmm.
looking for.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So, but yeah, I mean, like we said, this was probably one of is maybe the best super family adaptation to ever hit movie
It
theaters. I don't
is.
know. Yeah.
It
What?
is, and it's up there in my favorite animated films of all time. I love this movie, and honestly, rewatching it, for the first time in a few years, like as an adult, I just can't get over how well crafted this movie is. Like from a script standpoint, from world standpoint, character standpoint, it's just batting 1,000 to me.
Yeah, it's quite incredible. It really, no pun intended, truly.
Ooh.
It gives you so, I mean, it starts with like the frame story aspect, or not frame story. It starts with a flashback, kind of course, but it does give you the world feels so lived in, and you do feel like you get to know the characters really, really well from the onset. It's very
Mm-hmm.
efficient and very effective storytelling, and honestly, for an animated movie, some really inspired, visual direction too. Like there's some frames when both Mr. Incredible and Elastigirl are like kind of like sneaking through the island, which feels so
Yes.
artistic and like kind of maybe I'm using this word wrong, but like impressionistic. There's some ways in which like the kind of like curves of Syndrome's like lair, like it like flares out like in the night. It just looks so
Yeah.
so good. And even like the only negative thing you can say about this movie, I think, is that like the animation just like feels like it's from
It
2004,
does.
but
The
they're
animation has aged, especially in comparison to the Incredibles 2 sequel that came out
mm,
in 2018, which I did watch directly after I rewatched The Incredibles.
mhm.
And it's a big jump in the animation quality, but that's just kind of a product of the time. I mean, I think
And
we, can't ding it too hard for that, but it's still just the way that it holds up on a
yeah.
story level is pretty impressive to me.
And I think the movie is never trying to shoot beyond its means with the animation. It knows what the limit it probably had at the time, and I think it looks very, very consistent throughout, and that like is in its favor. Like they try to do a little bit more with like the water, but that's I think that's like where the movie suffers like the most visually, but otherwise it's like it looks really good. Like it looks so consistently like what it is. That airplane
And
sequence
yeah.
is like so thrilling when like the way it's edited, the way
Oh
like
my
the
God.
the things are, and like the sound design, and like everyone yelling at each other. So good. Yeah.
It's just, yeah, they do such a great job at building this world too, like this kind of ripped from a comic book world that they live in, just as their day-to-day life.
Hmm.
Like we start out with a world that superheroes just roam freely and they are, an everyday part of life.
Hmm.
And then we get this huge visual contrast after, we're out of that flashback sequence that you mentioned to this kind of gray toned, like normal superhero less world. And, I think pick up on the difference just visually as well as, in character, like the way
Hmm.
that it goes from Mr. Incredible, and Elastigirl at their happiest, arguably, to, this immediate and kind of dark turn, which that I
Hmm.
didn't remember, to like Mr. Incredible being sued because he saved a guy's life who didn't want to be saved. You don't really remember the suicide aspects of this when you're
Yeah.
a young viewer, But this movie does get a little dark sometimes.
It's
But
also wild to think that like their wedding day is also like what caused superheroes as a whole to have to be like to go to be normal people. Like it's kind of their fault. Like Mr. Incredible's fault.
yeah,
Like he
it is his
exposed
fault.
a lot of other things, you know?
And especially because, I mean, when you go back and you think about it, like that sequence of events, like he goes from, getting a cat out of a tree and
Hmm.
stopping a robbery. And then he's like, I still have time. I still have time. And you're like, no, if you had just not done that last one, maybe,
Yeah.
maybe there would be a different outcome. But, nonetheless, they end up in a superhero-less world. And that's kind of a bleak existence, especially for Mr. Incredible, who is actually named Bob Parr. Very normal name. Very normy boy. But he's, like a miserable insurance salesperson who's just, trying to do good somehow, but they really give him the perfect job to like trap him in the confines of like, I can't do anything for you.
Well, I mean,
um,
he probably wanted to be in some type of role where he still got to help people, right? But wasn't able to use his
yeah.
actual skills and like you get placed in something that ostensibly is there to help people, but actually is like doesn't help people at all, you know?
No, super bureaucratic, a lot of red tape, horrible boss.
Yeah.
Um, and they are living under the radar in this movie, which I think gives it a different kind of stakes, because they are meant to be living without their powers,
Hmm.
with their, especially with their children, like they're told not to use their powers kind of ever.
Hmm.
Um and I think that that is a really good use of showing how those rules will get broken, or like priming us for how
Hmm.
that rule will get broken and prepare to kind of be dazzled by it. I mean,
Hmm.
when once they get to that island and the kids are using their powers, especially that sequence where Dash is just running through the island. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
it's visually really impressive, but also as an audience member, you're really impressed by like, oh, he can run so fast that he's basically floating on water. Okay.
Yeah.
Like you're prepared to be dazzled by what they can do and to feel their pain for what, like that they can't use their powers in everyday life,
Hmm.
for their own good or for the good of everybody else.
Yeah, and the way the kind of score like celebrates that too and kind of like
Uh,
sings around them as they're like,
Score is so
yeah.
good.
It's great. I mean, I think the thing that this movie does probably in a better way is like it's with the four characters of the family, it sets up problems that each of them are facing and how and throughout the movie we show that how they can overcome it and how the movie can be so efficient in delivering that message. Just something that I think was like a little bit lacking from like Fantastic Four. Like it is possible to do like an ensemble type-ish movie and give each character like a meaningful thing to go through and overcome throughout. Even if Dash's is just that he wants to use his powers a little bit more, right? He wants to explore his
Yeah,
full potential. And he does, he gets to do that, right? But you still and you the way, like you said, it like the movie primes us to be excited for that moment. And that is great when it works out.
I need to point out another link to Fantastic Four First Steps.
Hmm.
Speaking of the score, do you know that the score is done by Michael
Michael Giacchino.
Giacchino for both movies, for The
Yeah.
Incredibles and First Steps? I did like the score in First Steps.
Yeah.
I think that's probably a purposeful link. I
Hmm.
think that, as you said, that The Incredibles lifts a lot from the Fantastic Four comic, and I
Hmm.
think that Fantastic Four First Steps is probably lifting from The Incredibles a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, even the moment where the thing lifts the car, I don't know where
Oh
that
my
started.
god,
I where
yeah.
where did that start, right? Like, did Mr. Incredibles do it
Yes.
because that was in the comics, or are they doing it because it was happening in Mr. Incredible in the Incredibles? Also, we forgot to mention on Fantastic Four, but like, you can compare. they're so clearly inspired by Interstellar in that black hole scene.
Oh
It's
my God,
great, like
yeah.
from even down to the score. There's things happening that is just like
Hmm.
insane. I was like, Matt Shackman literally watched Interstellar and was like, "Can I just recreate parts of this for
I'm
in
just gonna
this
do the
movie?"
slingshot scene for that.
It was great.
Um,
I was like, "This is insane!" Like this is like
I mean,
there's a kid out there who's gonna watch Fantastic Four First Steps, get really into movies, and then later in life discover not only The Incredibles or has
but
already seen The
Interstellar.
Incredibles, but also Interstellar and be like, oh my God, you know? Yeah.
Wow. Um,
Anyways,
yeah,
yeah, back to The Incredibles.
yes. But I just, yeah, I mean, obviously a lot of the powers are very similar,
Hmm.
as well. I mean, we've got some pretty clear parallels. And the way that they're used in each movie are pretty different, but also kind of complementary, I
Hmm.
think, to each other. You can see how each character uses them and grapples with them. Less so in the Fantastic Four. I feel like they've kind of fast forwarded through the grappling with our powers stage of
Yeah.
things. But I do think it's interesting to see, what different characters do with the same powers.
They were
Um,
pretty mindful to have Mr. Fantastic stretch like very, very little because I think they were worried about how that was going to look CGI wise. Um,
Fair.
but also, I mean, the scene where Elastigirl is like stuck between three like
Oh my
corridors
god.
and she's just like kicking things, and I'm just like, yeah, that's
She's
so
just
fun. Like
that is
that's why you adapt
incredible
something like
sequence.
that, like this in animation, because if you were to do that in live action, it just wouldn't,
Oh, it would
I
look
don't know.
goofy. It would look
Yeah.
really strange. But I mean, just even the suspense in that sequence alone is something that I don't think I felt during the Fantastic Four. And I'm not sure if it's just, you know, more like a moment of peril that she's in, or like, you're really concerned about where things are going from here.
Hmm.
Or, you're not even sure where she is totally.
Yeah.
But I feel like the movie was really effective in a lot of suspense, as well. And just, I mean, the setup of the nuclear family, and the whole like luring the father away
Yeah.
with like promises of the glory days, and
Hmm.
is just so like familiar, but it works so well. Like it's being executed at such a high level that you don't even care. And it's set up so perfectly for him to have a nemesis. And for
Yeah.
this, I didn't recall the plot point in which Syndrome has been killing off other superheroes
Yeah.
also, like that he's been kind of building up to killing Mr. Incredible. um
Hmm.
and that kind of, again, dark, weird, dark turn for, like, that this movie is, there's a moment where Mr. Incredible hides behind like a skeleton, like, like of bones of us, like
Yeah.
presumably an old colleague. Like it's pretty upsetting,
Yeah.
but on purpose. And I think that, um, yeah, it's just very perfect setup for him to have this arch nemesis that used to look up to him
Hmm.
so fondly. And, it all goes back to that scene, that opening scene, like everything that goes wrong in this movie basically goes back to that one flashback, down to Syndrome.
Yeah. Where you kind of just have to like you have to find that balance between like doing the thing that you love and also like the fact that you have a family that you need to be there for, and like you can have both, but you need to know what that balance looks like, right? And I think that's kind of where they end up in the movie, where they're like, we can't deny that we this is part of us, right? This thing that we
Mm-hmm.
do is like part of our lives. But we can be still be a family while still exercising this thing that we love doing, you know?
Right. This doesn't make us a family, but it makes it our family.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I mean, I think that something else that this movie does really well is just, the children in peril of it all. I
yeah.
mean, there is a child in peril throughout all of Fantastic Four. Franklin, you are in danger. But the
Yeah, but
kids in this movie
that
are
baby is CGI.
it was a really cute baby.
But he
I
was mostly
think
CGI.
he was mostly CGI, and looked really uncanny valley. I was getting a little like
Yeah.
Twilight
Yeah.
baby, like the baby from Twilight vibes. Um, but cuter. Again, much
Yeah.
cuter. But
Yeah.
um, the kids in this movie are capable of saving themselves.
Mm.
And I think that that is a really important part of the movie, is that not only are the parents saving the kids, but the kids are saving the parents. And like, like it is truly learning to work as a team and learning to, I mean, there's definitely moments where the parents are like, oh no, this is too much.
Hmm.
But also, there are moments of parenting, but also moments where you have to learn to trust as not just like a family, not just as parent child, but as a
Yeah.
team, as heroes, as people who are working to save the day, to save the greater good. And I think that bringing that unit together the way that this movie does is a really incredible feat.
Yeah,
No
I
pun
mean,
intended.
there's that really great line that Elastigirl has that's like something along the lines of like, these people will not hesitate to kill you. And it's like delivered so real to be like, there is a clear and present danger to the world. And just because you have this power doesn't mean that you are immune to the fact that you like, there's this
Right.
danger that
You're
exists
not
out there.
invincible. You're still not invincible just because you
Yeah.
have powers,
Yeah.
which is important to get across to not just the kids in that moment, but also to the audience, like to remind us that like, oh, these kids are in trouble. Like, they are in a place where men in flying like blade helicopters will come after them.
Or even
Um
more simply, like there's a literal guard that has like a semi-automatic rifle that is
oh my
shooting
god.
at Violet in the water. And like
Yes.
I don't I mean obviously 2004 like school shootings existed back then. I don't know if something like that would fly now, but also I'm sure that that was definitely
It's
up
true.
for conversation that like this is a real gun. That's It's not a laser gun. It is an actual
No.
gun that someone is shooting at a
Pointing
child
at
with.
a 12-year-old girl or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
I hope that was a conversation. I hope
I'm,
so.
yeah, I mean, I was like watching it and I was like, whoa, that's like crazy, I also, when revisiting this movie, I remember watching this movie in theaters with my parents, and the scene where Mr. Incredible's kind of like recruited by Syndrome, and he's like sitting in his
Mm.
office. I remember just like the way the projector was like flickering in tandem with like the hologram thing that he has, but also everything, and I was just like, whoa, this is movies.
It is. It's cinema. This is animation done at an incredibly high level.
Yeah.
And I just I love this story so much. And it is one of those things where I'm like, does it work as live action? Like, I feel like inevitably Disney will try and make a live action of this the way that they did
I was gonna
Lilo and
ask that.
Stitch.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't think it does. Like, I think that this movie is so special in part because of what you were saying, like how far the animation can take them in terms of storytelling, and it's special. It's
Yeah.
even with aged animation, it's very special.
And they also have a clear comp that like Fantastic Four, like the stretching, just it's gonna work or it's not gonna work, right? And like it's just gonna be a lot harder to pull
You
some
let
of that
him
stuff off.
stretch, all right? You let him stretch. I was wondering why he wasn't stretching more just to save his kid. I'm
They
like,
were
girl,
scared. They
get.
were scared.
I know, but your son, your CGI son, is in the palm of Galactus's hand, and you are not stretching fast enough. There's like that moment where Sue is like, "Go save our son," and she's like
Yeah.
giving her all. She's like giving her entire life force to getting Galactus to Times Square and like pushing him. And I'm like, Reed, you have one job, and it's bend far enough to get your baby. The baby in The Incredibles is left out of the
Yeah,
main
Jack Jack.
storyline. Jack, he's a huge part of the second movie, um, but I think they leave him out for a reason, and it's to have that moment at the very end where his powers like show themselves to be very amorphous and like
Hmm.
very Franklin Richards, like where we don't really know what Franklin's powers are at the end of this movie, just that I guess he can revive his mother from the dead. And then Jack's power is also like, I don't know, I think he like sets himself on fire, but
It
also,
is also very like reality warping, right? He can change his own
yeah.
like his body to become something else.
Mm-hmm. There you go. There's a clear link right
Yeah.
there. Couldn't have said
Um,
it better myself. What do you think of in terms of the villains and the villains that have a point? What do you think of Syndrome as maybe it wasn't
well,
maybe I was wrong. Maybe it goes further back than the Dark Knight. Maybe it's the Incredibles. Does Syndrome have a point?
well, yeah, I think Syndrome does. You know, Syndrome has this great line where he says, "Well, when everyone's super, nobody is, right?" And it's like because of his like similar to kind of like what Lex Luthor was feeling, right? Like this kind of like inept, like this general, like I'll never be good enough because I just simply am not like someone who is super, right? And obviously he
Mm-hmm.
feels really inadequate because of that. It also feels very like I just like looked this up to make sure, but like very similar to Watchmen in a sense because Ozymandias is also like a very smart guy who, you know, in order to like what he like revive interest in heroes, if I'm remembering correctly, or at least like prop himself up, he like tries to introduce a fake threat into the world that he can like
Mm-hmm.
stop. And so that's like Syndrome too, right? Syndrome is like if I can provide people with fear, I can come in and be the new hero now that the rest of the heroes, I'm killing the rest of them so that I can be the guy, right?
Right.
And yeah, there is this like, I guess this interesting thing where you can understand why he felt left out, right? But then he obviously twists it in a bad way.
You can, and I think that there's also an element of like don't like don't meet your heroes or like don't
Hmm.
something like that, like when he holds on to that moment where he meets Mr. Incredible and Mr. Incredible tells him, I work alone, and he holds on to that for the rest of his life,
Yeah.
to the point where he is repeating it back to Mr. Incredible when he thinks that he's just killed his children, in a plane crash. And he's like, "You work alone anyway." And I was like, "Oh, that is cold, Syndrome. Cold." And yeah, I think you're right. He is more of a, I guess, one to one with Lex Luthor, as like he's like a tech mind, or like a,
Hmm.
like more of a person in a suit mentality. Um, but I do think he has a point. I think, yeah,
Yeah.
maybe is Syndrome the original villain with a point.
I
I
don't
don't know.
I don't
Watchmen was first, but
yeah, yeah, yeah.
not the movie.
Um
I think that this makes a really satisfying pairing. Ultimately, if you are in a family mood, if you are trying to root for a family, and if you want to see some villains that wear a lot of mechanics.
yeah. Wait, also, where did he get all his money from to own an island?
Oh, Syndrome? I don't
Yeah.
fucking know. But
You think he invested
family,
in
he's a
Apple?
Nepo baby. I think he's a Nepo baby.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think he just,
Um,
yeah.
so alternate pairings for Fantastic Four First Steps. We talked
We
about Fantastic
really
Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer. You
We
could,
really only had that one, but I guess now I'm thinking, like, you got me thinking, like, do you pair this with Interstellar?
yeah.
Like, was that the move? I don't think it was, but just for
I
that
mean,
scene
it
alone,
would
I
have been
mean,
crazy for the time dilation thing to take place in Fantastic Four. Imagine they fucking whipped around the black hole and then they left their Earth for 10 years and they came back. Wouldn't that have been nuts? Like the whole world order would
that
have been different.
I feel like that they can't do, Like, I feel like but again, it would have given like a darker sense of like gravitas to the moment. Like you mentioned that one moment earlier in when the world is kind of catching up to Galactus, and they show like all those clips that there's like a cult of Galactus and like what the
Hmm.
real world impact is. And actually, that would have been a great way to show the real world impact. If the world had to go 10 years without their heroes, their saviors, waiting for Galactus to show up or not, and waiting for their heroes to show up or not, and wondering if they'd been abandoned by their heroes. Wow, I just Zack
I
Snydered
mean,
Fantastic
it
Four.
it would have given rise to So that would have been a great way to introduce Doom as potentially now a new savior to the world.
Oof.
In that time, they could have stolen Reed Richards' information and built the teleportation bridges so that
Damn.
it didn't happen like overnight. Because also like Galactus has been traveling space for years. You don't think he can fucking speed past our solar system? Like I was like,
Oh
how
my
long is it
god.
taking them? You know?
Wait, I did laugh at like the real-time updates that we were getting where it was like Galactus has just passed Mars.
Yeah.
I was laughing.
It was so goofy. Yeah, there was a handful of
I'm like,
scattered
how
laughs
do
in the
you
movie.
know? How do
Yeah,
you know? Um but yeah, now you have me thinking, did we just solve this? Did we just solve the movie?
maybe.
Wow. Call us, Kevin Feige.
I'm trying to think what other pairings with Fantastic Four first steps. I think you probably could have looked more into the general family dynamic they have, which is or like how it could have been explored a little bit deeper. Um, I don't know.
I think yeah, they had some good brother sister moments in this, but I would have liked a little bit more. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that I kind of forgot that they were siblings, Sue and Johnny,
Yeah.
until Vanessa Kirby gives that speech that's like, our parents died in a fiery car accident, and I was like, oh shit, trauma. It's trauma o'clock at Fantastic Four. But yeah, we didn't have a lot of pairings for this one because you were so locked in on Rise of the Silver Surfer until like 2 days ago.
And we also just watched the movie.
We did. We're fresh.
Usually we have like 12 hours to think about other at least 12 hours to think about other alternate pairings, even though we're like
Well,
pseudo set on one.
this just opens the door for our wonderful viewers and listeners to tell us what they would have paired this movie with.
Yeah, that's true.
Give us your shakes. We need help.
Yeah, let us know what you think you'd pair with Fantastic Four First Steps. What are we doing next week, Gabby?
Oh, I am so excited for what we're doing next week because it is going to be our first time since starting the pod where we are seeing the film together
That's
in theaters. And I did that on purpose because I think I'm going to have to hold your hand during together.
I cannot
I'm so
express
excited.
I cannot express how much I don't want to watch this movie. I'm so scared. I told Gabby that I'm going to be wearing earplugs and have a hat to cover my face, and both those things are true. I will be there with. I'm just debating on how heavy the earplugs are that I'm going to bring with me are, but I'm not ready. I'm
I don't think
terrified.
any of us are ready. I don't know very much about this movie, which is also making it hard to think of potential pairings. I like the very little that I know is just that it's body horror zone, which makes me lean towards doing a Cronenberg, but I don't know. I don't know how much torture I can really put you through in 1 week.
Let's just do Marriage Story.
That would be funny.
I do like also Marriage Story as a bit for like whenever we don't know what to pair something with, because you could pair Marriage Story with Fantastic Four.
Fuck it. Marriage Story. You know why? Because Reed Richards was offered to Adam Driver
Oh,
and
that's true.
he said no.
He would have
He
been great.
said
He would have been great.
he would have been really great, but I think he was like, I was Kylo Ren. I did that.
Yeah.
And thank you for that gift, Adam Driver. The best part of those movies.
Um, well, look forward to next week. That's it for us today. If you're listening to us on audio, leave a review or a comment wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to check out the video versions of these on YouTube at Back to the Future Pod. You can follow the podcast on Letterboxd at Back to the Pod and on Instagram at Back to the Feature Pod. We end every episode with a message from the couch creature. We don't have a couch today, but we certainly have a creature.
Who do we have, Evan? Evan is running. Oh, oh my God. You're not going to believe this. Tell the audience what we have here. The
This is
listeners who
this
can't
is
see.
a Captain America shield pillow that has a rip in it that's getting destroyed by the filter.
And do you think that that shield will pop up in Doomsday? Is that why it's here?
Oh, of course.
Well, until Doomsday, we'll see you next time for Together. If
This
Evan is still with
I'll
us.
hide behind this during together.
All right, see you next time.
Goodbye.
We did it.
Incredible. We did it. 1:05 in the morning.
1:05 a.m. Oh my god.